Hello there, my name's Giulio, and my YouTube channel, formerly known as the Success Helper Framework, is now REBT OZ. This brings it into alignment with my blog, rebtoz.blogspot.com. So REBT OZ is Rational Emotive Behaviour Therapy in Australia. Rational Emotive Behaviour Therapy was developed by Ellis in the 1950s. And it's a form of psychotherapy that links thinking, feelings, and behaviors together. And that when something happens, it doesn't entirely cause how we feel and behave. It's our interpretation of the event, whatever happens. He put that in his ABC theory of emotional disturbance paradigm, called the ABC theory of emotional disturbance. The A representing activating event, which is anything that happens, any happening in a child's world or in our world. A child might say, I've, forgotten my recess. What am I going to eat? Am I going to die? For example. How we respond to that is a function of how we perceive the event. So A is what happens, B is what I think about what happens, and C is the emotional and behavioral consequence of A. And my goal is to introduce this paradigm to children of all ages through Rational Emotive Behaviour Therapy. No, I'll say that again. Rational Emotive Behaviour Education. And my second post will look at applying REBT in the early childhood context. But I'll just step back a little bit from there, back to the ABC theory, and talk about where that came from, or the influences on the paradigm. Albert Ellis himself was an avid reader. He read very widely, but it was particularly interested in philosophy, psychotherapy, and he incorporated all of his learning and put it into his ABC theory of emotional disturbance. The Stoic philosophers influenced him heavily. People like Epictetus, and around about 100 AD, I think it was, said that events of themselves don't make us act and feel as we do. It's our interpretation of them that does, or has a lot to do with it. And there are others that influence the ABC theory paradigm. And I'll read you some quotes from different philosophies and perspectives just to illustrate how this kind of thinking seems to be universal, these observations. So bear with me. I was reading something about Islam. I was working at a school, an Islamic school, and so I did a bit of research, and one quotation I recorded is as follows: "Our thoughts have a powerful ability to determine our feelings and emotional states, and ultimately affect how we behave." And then in Hamlet, Shakespeare's Hamlet, Hamlet said, "Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so." And even in Proverbs 23:7, it says, "As a man thinketh, so is he." And presumably that also goes for women too, and everyone. And the Buddha, he's known to have said or observed, "We are what we think. All that we are arise with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world." Gautama Buddha. So it seems to be something that's generally appreciated, that how we perceive or interpret or think about things affects how we feel about things. And I'll go on to Einstein himself, the great thinker. He said, "The world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking." And Albert Ellis's ABC theory suggests that if we're not thinking in a way that is what he calls rational, we can learn to deconstruct, analyze, think about our thinking, and change the way we think about things. So eventually we develop a new way of looking at things, a new personal philosophy. C.S. Lewis, author of The Chronicles of Narnia, "We are what we believe we are." And Ellis's ABC paradigm incorporates that kind of thinking. And it's something that I'm interested in alerting students, children of all ages, to understand that the world that they're constructing inside their head, a virtual map of the wider territory, can be helpful or it can be unhelpful. So how are we going to help the children who are developing what Ellis would call irrational habits of thinking to change that mindset to a more rational one? And as we go on, I was thinking of the film Wizard of Oz, where the Wizard of Oz says to Lion, "You are a victim of disorganized thinking." And latterly, cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman says, "What we perceive is never the world directly, but rather our brain's best guess at what that world is like, a kind of internal stimulation of an external reality. Still, we bank on the fact that our simulation is a reasonably decent one." So there's a few perspectives, observations, ideas from way back and up to the present moment that suggest that our world, the world that we believe it to be, is something that we construct inside our heads. And Albert Ellis said that healthy people, in terms of social, emotional, behavioural well-being, they generally think rationally about things. They generally believe that things do happen, but we have the capacity to manage how we react to those events if we're thinking right. And of course, he also points out that we can lapse and develop into irrationality, as he calls it, where our mindset is a negative mindset, a fixed mindset of irrationality that is not very healthy. So, Rational Emotive Behaviour Therapy, Oz, is what I represent. It's what my YouTube channel is named. But Rational Emotive Behaviour Education is the application of REBT, a theory of psychotherapy. Now, how do we apply that in practice? How do we make that consumable, if you like, attractive, interesting for our early childhood learners? And that will be the topic of my next YouTube channel posting. So I'd like to finish off this brief little chat with you and just say that I intend to introduce a system of learning and personal development for early childhood children, and explain step by step how you might implement that in daily teaching practice across a school or in a classroom setting, preferably across a school. If you want to change culture and you want to have all teachers singing from the same hymn sheet, as they say, and that process that I'm talking about is called Have a Go Spaghettio. It's called Have a Go Spaghettio because it's something that probably catches the ear of a child, and accompanying that under the umbrella of Have a Go Spaghettio, there's charts, songs, poems, all designed to reinforce this idea that Albert Ellis told us about, that when something happens, it happens, and it affects how we feel and behave, but we shouldn't forget the role of our thinking, our interpretation, our perception of what's happening. And if we understand that, we can learn how to better manage ourselves emotionally and behaviorally. So I shall finish here, and thank you for listening. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to, what's that button you press? If you want to get notified, don't forget. All right. Thank you. All the best. Bye. And have a go, Spaghettio.